Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Comic Shop Adventures, my weekly excursion where I leave the homestead here at Athletic Geek HQ in search of my bounty of comics, graphic novels, action figures, collectibles, and all things in between. First things first, however, time to talk about what stood out from last week's pull list. And Detective Comics was the best book, I feel. I really liked the fun little joke. I don't really call it fun, but just a good little Joker story, and then the tease on what's coming with Detective Comics, with the Year of the Villain. Slight spoiler alert here, so just be warned. Looks like they're going to do something in Detective Comics with Mr. Freeze. Very interested to see what Tomasi does with Mr. Freeze. Hopefully it ends up being better than what Tom King did. I'm not trying to knock Tom King again, but this was just one instance where I didn't really live up to expectations. His Mr. Freeze arc. Terrifics was good, and again, that's also the story was good, but what really gripped me was the tease for what villain they're going to have conflict with in the Year of the Villain storyline that's going over all the DC books. And the Flash. Really liked how they, not only did they conclude the Year One story, but then they also they told a good Snart story, Captain Cold story there, that also ties into the Year of the Villain too. So those were the three, in my opinion, the three books that really stood out the most. And yeah, nothing really bad from last week's bounty, but those were the three that I really liked. So yeah, I will see you guys when I get back here at the homestead with this week's bounty. Hey everyone, I am back here at the homestead, right here at Athletic Geek HQ. It was a fifth Wednesday this week, so got kind of a different sort of bounty this week. Most of the issues here are annuals or mini-series, but let's get right to it. The only not mini-series or annual book that I have as part of this week's bounty is Avengers number 22 by Jason Aaron. I'm going to start a Ghost Rider story arc with this, and I'm glad to be reading Avengers again and not just skimming it, because it was tied into the War of the Realms, which I was not reading. Looking forward to reading this. I've liked Jason Aaron's Avengers run so far, and interested to see how he works Ghost Rider in with the rest of Earth's mightiest heroes. Avengers number 22. And I know I was talking about how I didn't like event books, but I'm a total hypocrite because now I'm reading two, because this is the second part, or the opposite half of the the big event book with the X-Men that Hickman is doing. This is Powers of X number 1. I didn't really mention the first part is really standing out, before the adventure began. I'm kind of hoping this picks it up. I'm intrigued enough to keep reading it, and I'm enough of an X-Men fan to keep reading it. But on the flip side of things, come out the gate just didn't really rock my socks like I thought it would. It wasn't as bad as Heroes in Crisis, but it wasn't. I guess I had higher expectations. But it was issue 1, and there is a whole other series going on, so we'll see what comes of it. Powers of X number 1. From there we go to the final part of a 7-issue miniseries, The Batman Who Laughs number 7. This has been a cool little Scott Snyder book, and I've maybe not always been one of my ones that I really am drawn to, but I like Scott Snyder Batman, and it's just another good story to be added to Snyder's legacy. Is probably the best Batman writer of this generation. So excited to read this and excited to see how things tie up. The Batman Who Laughs number 7. And speaking of Scott Snyder, we have Batman The Last Night on Earth, Book 2, the reuniting of Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, the greatest Batman team-up with a writer and artist of this generation. I gotta be honest, I'm gonna have to go back and reread Book 1, because it's just been, I guess, similar to the Doomsday Clock series, which still hasn't even concluded yet. Out of sight, out of mind, I've kind of forgotten about this book, but it's Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, so I'm not going to try and fanboy it too much. There is the chance that I won't like it. I will criticize even my favorite writers and artists if I don't like it. But if I was a gambling man, I'd say I would love this book, even go back out and reading it, because I like this team up. It's just kind of been a while since I've read it, and I've kind of forgotten about it. And that's when you read a lot of comic books in addition to other forms of entertainment. Sometimes that happens. So not only am I excited to read this, I'm excited to go back and read the last one to refresh my memory. And hopefully then I'll be able to keep it with me a little bit more as the series continues. Yeah, but either way, Snyder and Capullo, you almost can't go wrong with that. Batman: The Last Night on Earth, Book 2. And speaking of favorite writers that I've criticized, we have The Green Lantern, Annual #1. It's been an up and down series with Morrison, who is one of my favorite writers, taking over writing the lone Green Lantern book in the DC Comics universe right now. And, you know, up and down, things I've liked, things I haven't liked, but it's an annual. I have a love-hate relationship with annual books. I like them as fun one-shots, but sometimes, you know, when you're busy, you kind of find yourself going, this probably ain't going to mean much, so I find myself skimming annuals a lot. I try not to do that because sometimes a lot of cool stuff. Sometimes they're just good books, but this one, definitely gonna try and take my time and read this one because I want this to be a successful book. I really want to consider Grant Morrison on Green Lantern to be one of my favorite Green Lantern runs. So far, it's just been kind of iffy, but we will see where it goes from here. The Green Lantern Annual #1. And finally, we go to Justice League Dark Annual #1. And yeah, last Justice League Dark, still kind of iffy. It's still in danger of being cut. And I don't think an annual is going to save the ongoing series from being cut, but it could be a fun issue. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I like Swamp Thing, and Swamp Thing is going to be a major part of this issue. So, we will see what happens. Justice League Dark Annual #1. And that is it for the bounty this week. It was a short one. I'm surprised at how little I picked up this week, but it still got a good number of books that I'm excited about reading. Let me know what you picked up at your local comic shop in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, give it a share. Please subscribe for more content, not just from the world of comic books, from the world of pro wrestling, gaming, and all things geek culture. Go like my Facebook page at facebook.com/athleticgeek89. There you will find every Thursday my collection comic of the week blog that is exclusive to my Facebook page. But other than that, I'm out. Y'all be cool. Later.